Good afternoon and welcome to the Westport Board of Health October 28th, 2024 meeting, which I am calling to order. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's get right to it. Written report from the director. Any questions on that?
No, Madam Chair.
I just noted a lot of food-related events happening. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll move on to the verbal report.
Okay, so the public health nurse started administering the flu vaccine on September 16th. And as of the time of this report, October 23rd, we have administered 52 flu vaccines. Blood drives, there's one happening right now as we speak over at White's, and that ends at 7 p.m. And there are blood drives scheduled for 2025, and they'll be at St. John the Baptist Church. The blood drives at the church will run from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on the following dates: January 16th, March 20th, April 17th, May 15th, June 12th, and July 17th. And to date in 2024, we've seen a high number of animals that tested positive for rabies. We have seen 9 that have tested positive and 2 pending. We're waiting for lab results. And just as a reminder, all residents and visitors should be aware that rabies is currently present in the wild animal population. People and domestic animals should always avoid physical contact with wild animals, raccoons, bats, foxes, skunks, woodchucks, and coyotes, for example, which carry a higher risk of human exposure. Anyone exposed to rabies should seek immediate appropriate treatment after exposure, which will protect you from the risk of rabies. Please use all caution and be aware of your surroundings outdoors. Have all pets vaccinated against rabies. Do not approach wild animals, including feral cats. Do not feed your animals outside or leave any food for other animals. Please call the Animal Control Department at 774-264-5129 if you see animals behaving in a sickly or uncharacteristic manner. And to learn how to reduce the risk of animal bites to other potential rabies exposures, you can check out the Massachusetts Department of Public Health Rabies website at www.mass.gov/rabies. Barn book inspection started on September 23rd, and we've completed 131 out of 203 inspections so far.
I'm just curious whether or not the number of inspections over the past year or 2 years have gone up or down.
Up.
Uh-huh.
They've definitely gone up. This year, from what I'm being told, we've seen a few people that no longer have livestock. Maybe the last 3 or 4 so far on the ones we've done, but they're still up.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. We'll move on to director approved plans.
Okay, we have a 3-bedroom repair on a 41,999 square foot lot, 14 Mary Lou Ave, for Daniel Alexander. This one's been Concom reviewed. We have a 3-bedroom repair on a 40,970 square foot lot on 453 Old Harbor Road for Philip and Sarah Hudner. And this one's also been Concom reviewed. We have a 4-bedroom repair on a 29,969 square foot lot on 59 3rd Street for William Archibald. Also Concom reviewed, and this one will need a 4-bedroom deed restriction. We have a 5-bedroom repair on a 30,000 square foot lot on 107-109 Sodom Road for Mark and Paula Sullivan. This one had, at the time of when I did this report, it hadn't gone through Concom, but I'll make check on that. And this one will also need a 5-bedroom deed restriction.
Any questions from the board?
No. So I move that we move to endorse the director-approved plans for 14 Mary Lou Ave, 453 Old Harbor Road, 59 3rd Street with a 4-bedroom deed restriction, and 107, 109 Sodom Road for a 5-bedroom, with a 5-bedroom deed restriction and awaiting Concom review.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to minutes. September 9th, 2024. Any questions on those?
I had none.
I have none.
Okay. Let's go ahead and approve those.
Okay, I move to approve the minutes for September 9th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next set of minutes, which is September 30th. And Phil, you were absent from this
Yep.
one.
Okay, I have no issues with the minutes. So I move to approve the minutes for September 30th, 2024.
Okay, I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 2 with 1 abstention.
I abstain.
Thank you. Moving on to the proposed FY26 budget discussion. We have to sign off on that so Matt can get that to the town administrator. I think the memo, cover memo, kind of walks you through the proposed budgets for all three, but I'm gonna have Matt talk us through, please.
So I'm just gonna read the memo and I'll go department by department then. Okay.
Sure.
All right, so on the Board of Health, all the staff was increased by 3%. When we were preparing the budgets for FY24,
The FY25.
yeah, when we were preparing the FY25 budget, the clerks had a position change and a pay increase. So that's why on the budget side of things, it looks a little more than 3% on the clerk line item, because there was a mid-year increase after the budgets were prepared for FY25. Career education incentive longevity, sick buyback increased appropriately due to contractual obligations, and the Board of Health expenses were level funded. So with all that, the overall Board of Health increase was $19,985, which is, this is budget A. I'm sorry, I'm talking about budget A. So there's no changes really except for the 3%.
So there's no discretionary, that just has to go through as is in order to keep level service.
But we prepared a budget B as an alternative because we do have that much work, and we need an additional part-time clerk, just help us to manage the workload that we've had. This isn't anything new. This has been around for years, and now it's really just coming to a head. So budget B, everything else is the same, but in budget B, we're requesting to add a part-time clerk. And just over the last 6 years, we've experienced a significant increase in workload, primarily due to new or revised state and local regulations that are more comprehensive, require more paperwork, letters and follow-up, and as a result require more education to the public, installers, engineers, business property owners, and residents. In addition, there has been an increase in the number of temporary food events, more temporary and mobile vendors, and as a result, more applications and fees, permits all have to be created and collected and processed. The increase has put a strain on our current team, impacting our efficiency and ability to effectively and efficiently serve the public. Adding one part-time clerk would help us manage our workload more effectively and maintain the quality of our output. So my proposal is to bring in a clerk at 19.75 hours per week, which would equal an increase to the budget by $22,500, which is reflected in Budget B.
Let me stop there. Why don't we do one budget at a time? Any questions or concerns, and do you support presenting alternative A and B?
I do.
Yeah, I do also. I was wondering whether or not like thinking about the food permits or just generally over the permitted, whether or not the additional fees that we're collecting through permitting offset the cost of the temporary clerk.
I don't think just on food it does, but I think
Right.
overall, on all the additional permits, yeah, I think it would.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary to put it in the memo, but, because I'm sure you'll have a dialogue with Jim about it, but, you know, it'd be good to have that in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, it's suggested as well, when we get to the transfer station, that looking at the revenue to offset some of the expenditure and any increases. So I think that when we're doing a budget, we need to show how what we do supports what we're asking for as well. I don't think other departments have to do that, but I think we can clearly justify any increase based on what's being produced.
Looks like Board of Health budget is good. Next is the transfer station.
Did you want to vote on to approve each budget as we go along or at the end?
Let's just do it at the end, I think.
Okay.
I'm not anticipating a huge outcry of
All right.
proposals.
Transfer station, budget A, staff increased by 3%. Tim Burns has verbally stated that he will be retiring and his last day will be December 31st, 2024. So we need to modify the FY26 budget accordingly. So budget A, which is the preferred budget, which would be to create a new position, transfer station foreman. For the remainder of FY25, after Tim's retirement and beyond, the position would require the same essential functions as Tim's current position, which is transfer station worker, and that requires a hoisting license and a CDLB, but also have some added supervisory responsibilities, and there should have been an attached job description to show you guys what that was all about. In order to have the position filled without a gap in coverage, we recommend that the position get advertised November of 2024 with a January 2nd, 2025 start date. The proposed starting hourly rate that I'm proposing is $27.50 an hour, and July 1st, 2025, it would go to, for FY26, $28.33 an hour. And just because we're going to be kind of splitting fiscal years when this happens, if this was the option that was approved, the FY25 budget may or may not have to seek reserve funds to make it through the rest of the fiscal year, because obviously we're not budgeted for that increase in pay for this current fiscal year. But I won't know more until we get further along in the fiscal year. And budget A for FY26 would increase the current transfer station worker rate by a total of $7,000 over the FY25 approved budget. So at the end of the day, it's only $7,000 more than that transfer station worker position is budgeted for now.
But I think it's important to note, and maybe we need to add that in the memo, is that at the current transfer station starting rate, we will not get any candidates. It's just way too low a pay rate.
Mhm.
It's, we've tried before, and it hasn't worked. So it's definitely, the environment isn't getting more conducive to lower pay, so,
I think, one, we're asking to create a new foreman position will help with, you know, making some decisions down there on a day-to-day basis, which would, you know, in a way, demand a higher pay rate over, because the position, current position, the worker position, there is no supervisory responsibilities attached to that.
and it would take some of the workload off you and Joe, which has been pretty time consuming. Okay, you wanna go through we didn't talk about the expenses. Oh, yes, down here.
Yeah, so, okay, so transfer station expenses, they're the same for budget A and B.
Oh, I'm sorry. So is this in the second paragraph of the transfer station budget, the alternative? It says the FTE count would go down to 2.75? Is that?
That's for the second alternative, which we haven't discussed yet.
Oh, okay.
So we're still on A, budget A.
Oh, okay.
So, budget A expenses, somewhere about a year and a half ago, we lost our credits for the solar. We never really paid an electric bill. So now we're paying a pretty hefty electric bill that we were never budgeted appropriately for. So, to cover the yearly expense, we would need to increase the electricity line item by $500. Vehicle repair and maintenance, because of the increased cost of parts and labor and the maintenance of the vehicle, we're gonna need to increase that by $2,000. This year, we're set to see an increase of $4 per ton in our FY26 CMAS contract, which will equal, based on the tonnage, about $5,000. Whoops, so we'll have to increase that. And recycling program, cost to dispose of recyclables, they're going up, so it's requiring us to kind of go up on that line item by $2,000. And a consultant for the landfill monitoring is going up, and because of the retests and some other things that we have to take care of, it equals about $2,000 to increase that line item. So, budget A overall increase looks, is gonna be $25,219 over FY '24. 25, sorry.
It's okay. So that is basically our preferred option, because you'll see in alternative B, if we can't hire somebody, then we don't have no drivers at the transfer station, and therefore we have to contract it out, which is obviously more expensive. But we'll turn to Matt to explain that.
Yeah, it might not be so obvious to them, but to us, if we have those numbers as well, what it costs if we have to do for private contracting.
Oh, I do
That's
have
what
those
option
numbers.
B is.
Budget B has it in it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to come up with the cheapest way of contracting out.
All right, so budget B is the alternative budget, but not the preferred budget for FY '26. If we're unable to get a new position of the transfer station foreman, we do not expect to be able to hire a qualified driver with a CDL and hoisting at a starting rate of $23.25. We only know this because we tried for more than a year trying to get that position filled. Therefore, our best alternative option is to hire a part-time attendant, 1 yard person at 30 hours per week. And this will give us the yard coverage we need to stay open for the public, but also greatly increase the need to use outside contractors or temporary workers to haul our containers, because we would have no qualified drivers that work for the transfer station. The net result would be a decrease in a non-clerical line, because the full-time count would go down to 275, 2 3/4 people. Right now, we're at 3 full-time people, so it'll go down to 2 3/4 people, and we would hire a lower paid attendant 1 position. However, the professional line would have to substantially increase as well, and the net impact would be significantly more expensive than budget A. So basically, we're gonna decrease, from 3 to 2 3/4, and that line item would go down to 125, 100. But we'd have to increase the professional line item on our expenses to 120,000 to cover private haulers or temporary drivers, which is about an $85,000 increase from what it is currently budgeted at.
So, and the net increase would be about 73,000 compared to the budget A, with the foreman, which would be about a $25,000 increase overall. So, any questions about those two scenarios? Matt and I spent some time trying to come up with any way we could shave, and that's sort of, having the lowest paid, lowest level attendant. We have to have a third person there for when people are absent or sick or whatever, otherwise we're down to one person or no people, and we can't do that. But only having them there during the public hours, sort of the best we can do. I don't know, we can talk about this at a future time, whether we need to think about increasing fees. I'm sure that's gonna be a request. We increased, when did we increase the bag fees?
The punch cards?
Punch cards, disposal fees for residents, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
We may have to do it again. But that's a separate discussion, so. Any other questions on those budgets?
I'm fine
Any
with that.
concern about
No.
those two proposals? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on to animal control.
Okay, animal control, full-time ACO, new rate of $25.25 took effect on August 13th, 2024. Increase of 3% for FY '26 will bring the ACO to $26.11. Sick buyback increased appropriately. Career education incentive is gonna be added for FY '26 because the ACO will be eligible for that in FY '26, which is $1,125, and that was added to the FY '26 proposed budget. The only, we have vehicle repair increase of $500. The ACO van is aging and it's in need of more frequent repairs. Seems like the thing's in the shop every other week lately. We do have that on the capital improvements request, I believe, for FY '27 to be replaced. Rabies control increased by $1,000, just because of, mentioned earlier, for calendar years '23 and '24, we've seen a significant increase in the amount of animals testing positive for rabies. And the funding will be, the additional $1,000 will be used for education, outreach, and preventative methods such as purchasing edible rabies bait packs containing the Raboral V RG rabies vaccine. Overall increase to the animal control budget for FY '26 is $6,953. There's no proposed alternate budget at this time. And bear in mind, we still have an open part-time position in the budget for $28,000 that we haven't been able to fill yet.
Low salary. Story of our life. Okay, any questions on animal control?
Mhm.
If not, then I would take a motion to endorse the proposed budget. And you have the backup documents with all the figures.
Yes.
Do you need to go over that?
No. I don't know if Phil does.
So are we doing a specific approval for budget A? Is that what we want?
I was
Come out and
looking
do them all
for-
together?
I was thinking we could do them all. If
Okay.
I haven't heard any objections, why don't we
Yeah.
just
I didn't know if, okay, yeah, I didn't,
endorse both budget A
Okay.
and B alternatives?
Okay.
So
as-
moved.
second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the proposed budget. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. That includes budget A and B. Okay. Our next scheduled meeting is November 11th, which is Veterans Day. I would suggest just skipping over and doing the next one would be November 28th.
That'd be good.
Because it's a very short week for me, because because I would not be available after the 14th on, for several weeks, due to surgery. So, people, haven't had a lot of, appointments, so I think if necessary, could schedule a meeting sort of on short notice, and I could maybe do remote.
Well, when did you say the next meeting was gonna be? It should be the 25th, not the 28th, no?
Oh,
Because it's 11/11.
oh, sorry, 11:25, I have, yeah, 11:25, my
Mhm.
mistake. So,
That's fine with me, and we've called meetings when something important comes up, so.
are you okay with that?
Yes, that's
Okay.
great.
I'll take a motion to cancel the November 11th meeting.
Move to cancel the November 11th meeting and go back to regular schedule on the 25th.
I second.
Motion made and seconded to cancel the 11/11 meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, thank you. We have board member updates. We have just a few minutes before our first appointment. Donna, you want to?
Well, I'm still working on establishing the opioid settlement fund advisory committee. I've asked, Craig Dutra is going to be the select board member who is going to be on the committee, and I've asked for his assistance in getting a commitment from police and fire, because I've spoken to them, but there's been no commitment yet. So he's going to reach out to them so we can get a member, and then we're just working on a couple of others. But we have the school board approved Laura Charette, the principal of the middle high school, to be the representative from the school department. And I have some commitments from other people in the community, so that's what I'm working on. I was hoping to have a meeting at the beginning of November, but until I get a commitment, or we get a commitment from police and fire, I'm not gonna really be able to proceed yet, so.
Any follow-up on the request from the land trust about the composting?
No,
Okay.
no, there hasn't been. I will put a lot of energy and focus on that once I have the committee up and running. I've been spending more time on that, but there is nothing.
Well, it was a Halloween thing, so it would be coming up,
Oh, you know what, I sent him a message.
yeah.
He didn't message me back. I said I would like to speak with him and sent him that, but he
Okay.
didn't respond.
Okay. All right, well, we'll leave that be. Okay, I think it's 4:30. Can we hold your
We
update
can hold.
until after the appointments and the other agenda item? Okay, so I will call the 4:30 p.m. Variance or hearing for 65G Cummings Lane, James Cook, for 3-bedroom repair with a stone bed on an 11,892 square foot lot. Glenn Potter.
Good afternoon. Okay,
Good
Len Potter here for James Cook, 65G Cummins Lane. We have a small lot, 120 by 101 and a half. And what we end up with is a 3-bedroom house with a current cesspool. Cesspool's to be done away with. Install a 1,500-gallon tank into a stone bed leach field. I have a water test on the owner's well, which is the only well that's within 100 feet. 93 feet is the proposed distance. And the nitrate level is less than 5. You should have the report in your packet. And so that, the only variance I need is to be within 100 feet of the owner's well. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, we had hard copy of the test result. There was a separate report on lead. Is that just, we don't usually see that.
No,
Just
I don't know what they did.
Okay.
They don't give me.
It wasn't, it looked normal anyways, but I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
no, I think I saw it.
Okay. Any comments from Matt?
No, everything fine.
Questions?
Oh, nitrates were 4.2, so.
Questions from
No, I have no questions.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
The current cesspool is even closer, so this is a compliant system and further away, it's best to do, given the size of the lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the plans for 65G Cummings Lane, owned by James Cook,
Cool.
Cook, dated 10/3/24 for a 3-bedroom repair, with a variance of a distance of well for 93 feet instead of 100, and the following conditions: a 3-bedroom deed restriction, hold harmless agreement, Concom review, and we need 3 years of water testing or not? It's a small,
Is well less than 100 feet?
Yes.
Yeah, then the
yeah,
3 years of
3
well
years
testing.
of well testing.
Yeah.
For the
Water
property
testing
owner
on
as
it.
well. There's no abutters involved.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve the project at 65G Cummings Lane with those conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. Aye.
I paid the fee for conservation a couple of weeks ago, so.
Oops, yeah,
There's no hearing on it, there's no wetlands in 100 feet.
okay.
Okay,
Well, you're good with
Thank you,
us.
Mr. Potter.
thank you. Have a
Okay.
good night.
You too.
We have 7 minutes till our next hearing. Can you do your updates?
Sure, I can do 7 minutes of, less than 7 minutes of updates. The town of Westport is in the midst of a updating of its emergency response plan, which is 20 years old. And the process that we're using for to update the plan is through hiring a consultant from a grant from the Southeast Regional Planning Agency, and the convening of a Westport Hazard Mitigation Committee, which the Board of Health sits on, police, fire, planning, the planning board, and a lot of other town officials are weighing in. The reason that I'm raising this is that the phase of the plan that we're going through now is data collection. And in particular, besides the consultant developing a lot of maps that are looking at where resources are, where infrastructure is, where flood zones are, and those kinds of things that are essential to hazard mitigation, is also looking for input from all the residents and the business people in town as to what their experience has been with hazards. Everybody knows we've had lots of storms over the years, and that's a particular focus. Flooded basements from stormwater runoff, and so we're reaching out to residents to get their input that would help us then formulate and prioritize what the community thinks is the most important hazards and what the magnitude of them are, and then proposals as to how we should deal with it. So there's an online survey which is available, and I would read through the website URL, but it's way too complicated to remember. And so what I'm planning to do, and I've talked to Matt about this, is try to post it on our homepage. And it also may be at the planning board itself, and you can also call the planning board at 508-636-1037. But and this is a process that's going to go through into 2025 before the final plan is developed. But this would be an appropriate time to weigh in while we're doing this phase of, figuring out what the problems are, the magnitudes are, what people really care about. So I encourage you to follow up, check our website out, I don't know how long, or perhaps call the planning board and get more information. So that's number one. And then the second part is, just more at this point for board members, which is that as a result of public inquiry to the Department of Environmental Protection about their study on PFAS chemicals, which is an acronym for an enormously big suite of chemicals which in recent years has been discovered to be highly toxic in very minute quantities, but have been incorporated into numerous consumer products, too numerous to mention and scary to mention, all of which, not all of which, but have in certain instances entered our groundwater through various sources. Some is through stormwater, some is just through our own practices at home, in which water goes into septic systems, which eventually leach into groundwater. And so there's been, Westport had been identified as a community that the DEP has been studying, and and so I got reached out to by DEP staff, who was the lead on this, saying that they would like to do a presentation in the beginning of 2025, which is when their active assessment of well investigations have been done in Westport, and they wanted us to participate in that, have a role in that. And so that hasn't been defined yet. We have a bunch of time to do it, but just to put it on a future agenda list. And so as we begin to move forward, I did reach out to Angela in anticipation of this meeting, just to get her thoughts, but she was away, and so we know there's a lot of data out there about it, but what the significance of it is and how much they've actually learned from it, and what we can do to inform the public about what they might do now, and what are the next steps going forward, all those kinds of questions. I guess hopefully, they'll be asked, and hopefully we'll coordinate and develop some answers for that. And then, it might affect, how we then move forward regulating private wells, for example. So those are my two things.
Great, well, thank you, and I would suggest that you continue to be the lead on that, if you're willing,
Yeah.
Unless you want to step up.
For what?
The lead on this PFAS issue.
Well, I could step up. I thought that was part of what you had been working on.
Well, it just tends to dovetail, because I've been, studying plastics and these kinds of things. So, and I think what, how we participate remains to be open. So,
you let me know if
we'll see what how it evolves.
Yeah, I'm fine to work on it. I mean, but I don't want, because I know that Phil was working on this in this area. So,
Okay.
let me know if you need me to help you or take over.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm gonna put a halt then here now. We'll come back to updates if there's any further, and call the 4:40 PM variance hearing for 14 Rose Avenue. Riley Holmes is the owner, 2-bedroom repair with a BSF or bottomless sand filter, and Advantex AX20 on a 10,000 square foot lot. Kevin Silva representing. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. For the record, Kevin Silva, S&K Engineering, here on behalf of Riley Holmes, Jeff Riley. We have an undersized lot here and an existing dwelling. Plans on this lot were very limited. There was actually no plans, I don't think, on record when we researched it. So we had to make fit what we had available. There is a shared well in the rear of the lot, and the shared well occupies almost the whole entire parcel. Leaves us a little triangle of outside the 100-foot buffer zone, and there is nowhere else you can put this system in this lot without being outside the, I shouldn't say buffer zone, the well radius. And anywhere else on this lot would require variances or waivers, whether it be to the foundation, to the property line, or closer to the well. At this time, we designed the bottomless sand filter along with the Advantex. We worked with Atlantic Solutions in coming up with the layout of the piping in the system. And this seems to fit the best in this little area. We do need waivers. Obviously, we need a waiver to the street line, right-of-way line, one of them being a paper street that likely does not look like it'll get developed, but it is a paper street, and this Rose Avenue dead ends the pavement at that paper street. So we need a variance to that street as well as we need, I should say a waiver. We need a waiver to the foundation, because we don't have any room. We had to ask for a waiver because we couldn't do a perk test at the time. There was too much water infiltrating in, so we needed a waiver to conduct a sieve analysis. And basically,
Yeah, before you're asking, is that right? Okay.
so I can answer any questions the board may have.
I'm gonna turn first to Matt for any comments or concerns.
So I've been talking with Kevin about this property for a few days, and I think there was just kind of discrepancy on the number of bedrooms. So we sent Joe out today to do a bedroom count, and I think it was agreed and determined that there's 2 bedrooms in the home. Did he meet you out there today? Yeah. So was that the determination, was 2 bedrooms?
He didn't tell me.
Okay. Well, he said 2 bedrooms, and I asked if the owner agreed, and he said you guys were all in agreement. So the house is gonna be deed restricted to 2 bedrooms anyways, because of the size of the lot. We were just looking to see if, sometimes in the older houses, 3 bedrooms are in there, and if there was kind of a question on whether it was a 3rd bedroom, then it could have possibly gone through as a 3rd bedroom, but the feedback I got from Joe today was it was only 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, it was a 2-bedroom, and it was being occupied like a 3-bedroom, from what I understand. So minimum Title V was a 3-bedroom. There was no records, so that's why we went with the 3 bedrooms. I don't think we should go any smaller on the system, as I mentioned, because these systems are already shrunk down as it is because of the treatment. But if you have to deed restrict it, I mean, unless you have any objections to that.
It is on the assessors as a 2-bedroom too.
It is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, anything else? Questions from the board?
I just had one, it's not a question about what you're doing, it's more like a little bit of a protocol thing, which is that the exception that you're asking for, the reduction related to the separation from high groundwater, and that reduction in the Ts is in the reg is kind of contingent upon your sealing the Ts with hydraulic cement, et cetera.
Correct.
And I just didn't see a reference to that requirement like in your notes anywhere. And
It says it right in there, if you look at.
okay, so that, but I'm dealing with new technology
Oh, I
here,
got
so,
you,
you know what I
no
mean?
worries.
So-
You wanna look at the plan?
Yeah, if it's in there, it's great, okay, then it just satisfies my,
Right under the,
Yeah, I
there's
can
a
see
note
it.
there.
okay, great, okay.
It says all inlets and outlets to be sealed.
Oh, great, okay, beautiful, all right, that's why I asked you, because if it wasn't there, I would ask you to put it in, but it's in there, okay, great, okay.
Okay, no questions, so, I think we're ready for a motion. Has it been to Concom?
We preliminary, before we did the perk test, I believe you filed with conservation to do a review, and he said there was no wetlands, is that what the outcome was? There was no wetlands.
Yeah, we just don't have a sign off here yet.
Yeah, we just need to get the plan stamped by Concom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need a clarification. So your recommendation is they reduce the size of the system?
No, the recommendation, no, it needs to be designed as a 3-bedroom, but it will be a deed restriction.
Only a
because-
deed restriction,
Or-
not.
Right,
As long as it's deed restricted, they can't put like somebody who's gonna buy it wouldn't be able to put a 3-bedroom house in unless they come before the Board of Health.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
Clear
such a
on
small
that.
lot, there's just not that much
Right.
carrying capacity, so to speak. Okay,
All right. Well, I will move to approve the plan for Riley Homes LLC at 14 Rose Avenue, a 2-bedroom repair, on a plan dated 10/1/24, contingent upon Concom review, 2-bedroom deed restriction, approval of the sieve analysis, a local upgrade approval waiver. There are 3 of them. One is the setback of the SAS from the property line from 10 feet to 3. The other is a setback of the SAS from the foundation to 7.5 feet from 20 feet. And the last is a reduction regarding the inlet and outlet fees and the separation from high groundwater. And a hold harmless agreement.
I was gonna say, no, hold harmless.
Yeah,
and then the usual IA requirements for the BSF
Yes.
yeah.
and Advantex. Okay,
Okay,
motion
well,
made,
I second.
motion made and seconded to approve the project at 14 Rose Avenue with those conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thanks, man.
Okay, let me call, before we wrap up our stuff, the other agenda item for 153 Plymouth Boulevard. This is a Title V inspection that needs further evaluation for nitrate levels of 6.85. And I believe you're here for that.
Yes,
Why don't you come on forward? Are you the owners or?
I am not the owner, I am the buyer.
Oh, the buyer.
I am the buyer.
Okay. So you're not Marco Garcia?
I am not.
Okay. Could you state your name for the record?
Sure, my name is Christopher Prazeres, Prazeres, and the prospective buyer.
Okay. And we don't have the inspector here either, is that correct?
No, the inspector's not here, to my
Okay.
knowledge.
Okay. I don't know if you, well, let me turn it to Matt, since the inspector's not here to present his report. And if there's questions, we'll see if you can answer them, which seems,
I will do my best.
Well, that's-
I really am here because the closing is Wednesday and they need the documentation to whether or not it passes, so in the interest of timing,
yeah.
I had been in contact with the office and they said that you folks were meeting on Monday, and I'm just hoping that way I can just tell the lender, hey, everything is good, we're good to go for Wednesday. So, because obviously there's a lot of moving parts, but
Okay. All right, so when Title V inspection reports come in, when a well's less than 100 feet, they have to test the water. This came back, nitrates were over 5. Then the report has to come to the board as needs further evaluation by the board. The board then looks at all the facts and data to determine whether or not the system has failed. However, when I was meeting with our board member Donna, she had picked up on something in the emails where that there's a report on the initial failure, leaky manhole on tank and high groundwater. The system has been broke out again during the dry summer, which is presumably this past summer based on the date of this email. And they go on to say the groundwater leaking into the tank is not an issue, but the breakout of the system is an issue. So we didn't know that the system had failed over the summer. And that's something I think the board should, would need to discuss further on how to proceed with evaluating this Title V inspection report, or if it's gonna be something different altogether.
So the inspection report at the time, whenever that was done recently, presumably for your sale, did not identify this as a failure because he didn't see that evidence at the time. But if there's, based on the emails that were part of the file, there was some indication of failure earlier in the summer. We don't know, we don't have anybody here who can tell us the circumstances, so that's giving us a little bit of a uncertainty. Do you have any information about, like, did the owner indicate or the realtor, any trouble with the septic system this summer?
None whatsoever. There was nothing in the disclosures, the
Right.
paperwork.
Because there's quotes here for doing excavating work and so on,
The knowledge that I was given was that the system was replaced in 2019,
right, which shouldn't.
which I
fail.
think is documented. I
Mhm.
believe that was in the
Yeah,
disclosures.
I have that in the file here,
Yeah.
it was replaced in 2019.
Again, my information is limited. The communication with the seller/seller's agent hasn't been ideal. I don't know if there's a language barrier there or not, I'm not sure, but I'm just going by the information that I have.
Yeah, the system was replaced in 2019, it looked like it replaced the cesspool. And then subsequent to that, looks like the system failed again in September of this year, according to what I'm reading here, at least.
So we don't have any way of verifying that information. It would be very unusual for a system to fail within 5 years. They should last longer than that. But we have this written documentation that indicates they were looking for quotes for excavation and putting in a white knight system, which is a type of technology that I'm not particularly familiar with.
Well, we can't, I believe, the White Knight system?
Yeah, that's what was quoted here.
Yeah, I believe, one of our regs, that system might be outlawed in town.
Okay. What say you, Phil?
Well,
He's our resident.
so you're before us, related to the issue of the water quality. And I think we could make a decision about that, pretty straightforward. But for you as a buyer, if you weren't aware of these emails, then it's really up to you in a way to decide, in light of this information which said that the system failed, if you still want to go forward, under what circumstances do you want to go forward? Would you want to do more investigation? Do you want to create, and this is not legal advice, I'm just saying it's, do you want to create an escrow situation where you would follow up with your inspector, or you would follow up on this information to be sure that when you purchase this property, that there's not another breakout, because breakouts are something that we would then be required to intervene in and require you as the owner at the time to do whatever it was to fix the problem, if there is a problem. So, I guess I'm suggesting an avenue in which we would not make a finding, since the situation of the other failure is unclear, and we're not going to know that, but we could, based on the information that's in front of us, make a finding as to whether or not we think the system failed as a result of the nitrogen testing. And then it's, I don't know, I would leave it to the buyer to figure out what's going on, or we could order another inspection to take place, but not necessarily have it, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names, but require the buyer to conduct an inspection if the sale goes forward. I don't know. or
We
postpone
can't
the
give
sale.
you legal
you know.
advice.
Yeah.
No, I understand, I understand. I'm
Um,
actually an attorney on my part-time, but
Okay,
I
well,
understand.
I would, at the very least, I would check with the Realtor. We can give you, copies of the documentation we have in our file. If you didn't get that information, that seems awfully relevant to a
Mhm.
sale.
Yes.
I guess my question would be, who were the emails exchanged between? Is any representation from from the seller?
We're getting used to these new technology.
So at least that way I could potentially
This is the
pinpoint.
most frustrating thing
Okay,
about this.
so this is between David Crispin, BSC Group, and Bob Silva at Septic Preservation. He's a managing civil engineer. There's a phone number here.
Neither of those names ring a bell. The
Yeah.
only thing I was
But this is-
provided was the
this is-
water test and
But this is,
the initial.
but doesn't this, because
This is an email from September of 2024.
Okay.
but the attachment, they have two attachments here. Are we sure this relates to this property?
Yeah, that's a question. I'm looking
Because
at that now.
the attachment says 88 Industrial Park Drive, Hingham septic evaluation at 5/13/24.
This is all we received, so I don't know. I couldn't open attachments because it's like a scan of an
I
email.
know, but that's what it's labeled as.
Yeah.
It's not labeled,
I think
uh,
that's the company, I don't think that's the
Yeah,
client.
the company is Septic Preservation.
But why is this in our,
so it's not in the,
Well, we could do a little more research on that, but I think like Phil said, they can discuss the water test because that's what's in front of them.
We'll come back to that. My strongest recommendation is you get this documentation and follow up with the people who were reporting about this,
Okay.
and this Realtor, to get clarification on that, and you can make a determination on proceeding with a sale on that basis. So let's return to the discussion about the current Title V inspection based on the evaluation that was done. What's the date on that? September.
10/2/20.
No, the date of the inspection was
Oh, the
September
inspection.
13th, which is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
week
yeah.
after
I was just looking
these
at the water
emails.
quality reports.
I'm not sure that he's aware of those, the inspector. Was hired by the seller, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So for us, what we're evaluating right now, based on this certified inspection report, is no indication of leakage currently. No indication of, structural failure currently. And the water test shows nitrates above the level of concern of 5, but below the 10, which would be when it's unsafe to drink. So sometimes we recommend considering adding a filtration on the water system.
That is certainly my intention.
Okay, then I would
Yes.
recommend you go forward with
Yes.
that. And if it gets really close to 10, then we look at, is the septic system causing the high nitrates and the failure? It's hard to tell from this. It could be from another property.
Sure.
Could be from stormwater and so on. There's no indication based on this report that we have in front of us, that there's a problem with the septic system as it is currently, as it was viewed and reported on by this gentleman, Haskell. I'm not familiar with them.
They do a lot of inspections here in town.
Oh, they're septic, okay. So any thoughts on approving the Title V with the nitrates on 6.85, with a buyer indicating he planned to put in a well treatment system?
Well, I would move to fine based on the information, from the test results we got and the information in the inspection form that the septic system is in compliance with Title V, and that, I guess that we would endorse the buyer's intention to install a water treatment system.
Okay. Donna, would you?
I second it, and I'm really focusing on these letters, and there is nothing that says that that's the address. That, right? I've read the letters and I cannot find anywhere, but there is supposed to be.
But it was in our file.
But there's it says at the bottom, 3 attachments, so I think if we can somehow get to those attachments, we can see if this is the correct property or not, that if it's this property that we're talking about. But there is no indication in any of the letters of what the address is, so I'm
Right.
sure.
That's-
Bodies of the email, no, right?
Yeah, yes. So, but I then second.
Well, maybe it's much ado about nothing, you know?
Right,
Yeah, we'll look into it.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah. And the
Well,
system was,
because, for various reasons, number one, I wasn't made aware of this up until now, and
Right.
I would imagine
Yeah,
if there was
yeah.
any
It's
string
just
of concern.
weird.
it's,
It's just
It
weird
would've
that they
been brought up.
included it with this whole
Yeah.
stuff.
Understood, no, I
So,
understand,
It's
things get
possible.
crossed, I get it.
it's possible it's not for that address. So based on what Phil has said, I second it.
Okay.
Okay.
But it would be really important to get to the bottom of this, so to speak.
right at the top of my
Okay.
list.
So, motion made and seconded to, what's the right wording?
Find the system in
Find the
compliance.
system in compliance with Title V currently. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, and that's for 153 Plymouth Boulevard. Okay, so you're all set
Thank you so
on
much.
this regard?
Just my last question before I leave is, if there should be any of those trail of emails having to do with that property,
Yes.
how would I be notified if I need to be?
I don't, can you leave us with your contact
I
information?
would love to, perfect.
We'll try to figure this out.
Okay. You wanna just,
I can certainly write it down for you, certainly.
Well, thank you for coming in, I'm glad you did.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time.
And good luck with the sale.
Thank
Or
you very
purchase,
much.
I should
Thank
say,
you.
The purchase.
Look forward to becoming a resident of Westport.
It's a beautiful town,
We're a little biased.
but as you heard, that's why we have low taxes. It's very tight on services.
Very
and
tight.
A challenge for those of us who have to try to deliver them.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, thank you folks.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to board member updates. Were you all set?
I'm set.
I don't really have any updates. I know I promised the total nitrogen testing.
You've had a few other things on your
I've had a
mind.
lot of things on my plate, so
Yeah.
hopefully things are improving. They will over the next 10 days, and then I'll have surgery, so then I'll be incapacitated another way. So it may be a while before we get to that, but I will, it's still on my list to do.
You have a big to-do list. We have a big to-do list.
Yes, we do. So I have no further updates. Anything else for discussion? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to.
Okay, so I move that we adjourn at 5:06 PM.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you,